The Black-Eyed Kids, or BKs, as they're often called in creepy corners of the internet, burst onto the scene as one of the creepiest modern cryptid legends in the late 90s. It all traces back to 1996, when Texas journalist Brian Bethel was sitting in his car outside a movie theater in Abilene, scribbling out a check for his cable bill under the glow of the marquee lights. Two boys, maybe 10 or 12 years old, suddenly appeared at his window out of nowhere, asking for a ride to their mom's house to grab money for movie tickets, even though the show had already started 45 minutes earlier. They sounded way too mature for their age, spoke in this oddly formal, almost scripted way, and Bethel felt this gut-wrenching wave of primal dread wash over him. When he finally glanced up in the dim light, he saw their eyes. Completely pitch black, no whites, no pupils, just endless voids that reflected nothing. He locked the doors, floor in reverse, and when he looked back, they were gone. Bethel shared the story on a ghost story mailing list a couple years later, and boom, it exploded into a full-blown urban legend that's been haunting people ever since. These kids are always described in the same unnerving way. Pale as ghosts, skin that looks almost translucent, usually between 6 and 16 years old, and dressed in clothes that feel slightly off, like outdated fashions or stuff that doesn't quite fit the era. But it's those eyes that define them, solid black orbs from lid to lid, like someone dipped their sockets in ink, with zero reflection or life in them. Encounters almost always happen at night, when someone's alone in a car or at home. The kids knock politely but insistently, begging for a ride, to use the phone, or most commonly, to be let inside just for a minute because they're lost or cold or scared. Their voices are monotone and repetitive, like they're reading from a script, and they pile on the pressure with lines like, "We don't have a gun," or "We're just kids. Why won't you help?" Witnesses report this overwhelming compulsion to open the door mixed with bone-chilling terror that screams, "Do not let them in." And the fear lingers for days or weeks afterward, sometimes triggering nightmares or a sense of being watched. Sightings have popped up all over the place since Bethel's original tale, from quiet suburbs in the U.S. to places like Portland, Oregon, and even across the pond in the U.K., where folks in areas like Cannock Chase swear they've had run-ins with similar entities. One common thread in these reports is how the kids seem to materialize out of thin air. No footsteps, no prior warning. And they vanish just as quickly if you refuse them. There are stories of them showing up in pairs or small groups, sometimes hitching on lonely roads or lurking near isolated houses, always targeting people who are isolated or vulnerable. A few witnesses have described the kids' clothes as mismatched or from another decade, adding to the uncanny vibe, and some claim the encounters feel like a test of will, with the black-eyed ones growing more agitated or hypnotic the longer you engage. No one's ever reported physical harm if they comply, but the psychological toll is brutal, pure, instinctive horror that hits like a biological alarm going off. As for what the heck these things actually are, theories run wild because there's zero hard evidence, just a ton of anecdotal accounts that keep the legend alive. Some folks tie them to demons or vampires, pointing out how they mimic classic folklore about entities that need an invitation to cross your threshold, like they can't enter without permission. Others swear they're alien hybrids or government experiments gone wrong, testing human empathy and compliance while blending in as innocent kids. There are even links to ghosts, undead spirits, or shapeshifters like skinwalkers, and a few paranormal researchers connect them to ancient changeling myths or the idea of death personified as a child to exploit our protective instincts. Skeptics call it all creepypasta fiction that snowballed from Bethel's post, but he doubled down in interviews in a 2013 newspaper article, insisted it was real and not some made-up tale for clicks. Whatever the truth, the Black-Eyed Kids tap into something deep and primal about trust, vulnerability, and the fear that the most harmless-looking things could be anything but. These days, the Black-Eyed Kids have become a staple of paranormal podcasts, YouTube horror channels, and even reality TV shows like Monsters and Mysteries in America, where Bethel recounted his story on camera. They've inspired books, fan theories, and endless Reddit threads where people swap their own "I swear this happened" encounters, keeping the legend fresh into the 2020s with reports still trickling in from all over. What makes them stick around is how they prey on everyday kindness. Most of us would help a lost kid without thinking twice, but these stories flip that on its head, warning that sometimes a polite knock at 3 a.m. is the one you ignore at all costs. No photos or videos have ever surfaced that hold up under scrutiny, which only fuels a mystery. But the shared dread in every account feels too consistent to dismiss outright. If you ever hear a soft voice outside your door on a dark night asking, "Come in," just remember, don't look them in the eyes